The Second Sight detective agency is on the job, and this case is all but solved. Get the car, boys.
John Larroquette, an old-fashioned investigator.
We're detectives. We'll detect.
Bronson Pinchot, a new-age psychic.
Your, blood pressure is way up. And your sperm count is way down.
The Second Sight detective agency has everything it needs to fight crime.
Bobby is a power psychic.
A what?
He reads minds.
He's clairvoyant,
The thief is in this room.
telepathic,
She's not pregnant.
and psychokinetic.
Your back hurts, so his back hurts. Yeah, we'll tell the amazing Randy he's got the wrong side.
He'd make the perfect detective if only he could see where he was going.
Straight ahead, babe. I can't go straight ahead, babe. There's a building right there. Straight ahead, babe. I can't go straight ahead, babe. There's a building right there.
John Larroquette,
Well, as you can see, we're very weird.
Bronson Pinchot,
I want to be nice.
Second Sight.
I see a comedy in your future.
You know, for a movie that had two of the biggest stars on television at the time, John Larroquette, who had won 4 straight Emmys for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series for his work on Night Court, and then Bronson Pinchot, who was the star of Perfect Strangers, you would have thought that this movie probably would have done better, but this was one of those movies that was affected by the writer's strike of 1988. It was a movie that had a script written by 2 people who wrote critically acclaimed works, Patricia Resnick, who wrote 9 to 5, and Tom Schulman, who would win an Oscar later in a couple of months for his work on Dead Poets Society. And like I said, you had Larroquette and Bronson Pinchot in this. You also had Shirley MacLaine working on the character of Bronson Pinchot, because she for some reason, I think from what I'm reading here is that she's well known for her beliefs in New Age spirituality and reincarnation. So I guess Bronson Pinchot went to her to get some assistance from these psychics to maybe fit this role more. That's what I'm reading off of Wikipedia, but yeah, the movie here just really, I don't know if this movie really wants to know what it's trying to be. Like, it's trying to be this high-concept comedy, because you see in the trailer that Bronson Pinchot has these magical powers that go along with his psychic abilities, and it's just, the movie doesn't really explain it all that well. The script, for the most part, is pretty lackluster, and like I said, you can tell that this movie was heavily affected by the strike of '88, but because, you know, most of these movies did a pretty good job of keeping the fact that they were being produced in production during the strike, but they weren't able to really completely go off the rails. This movie feels like it really completely fell off the rails, and you can tell there was just so much here that they tried to make work here, but it just really didn't work all the way in the end. So, yeah, Second Sight was not a good movie. And you notice in the trailer that I did cut it off because, once again, I had to get that trailer from Warner Archive, and the last 15 seconds, those ads came up, so I had to go to another trailer to get to the last part of that trailer. So, should have said that in the beginning. But anyway, yeah, Second Sight was not a very good movie. That's pretty much all I want to say about that one. But let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is The Phantom of the Opera, starring Robert Englund.
Some stories have so great a power that with each new generation, they are reborn.
There's a feeling, a passion.
But it had to come from somewhere. This was no phantom. Ghosts do not skin their victims. This is the work of an artist. We will make music that the world will love forever. Take the last step to me. You are the angel. You are my voice.
I feel him and I hear him. I don't want this feeling ever to go away.
The Phantom of the Opera. The all-time horror classic.
The Phantom is real. It has a name.
Is now a major motion picture. You love the music. I am the music.
A lot of people are dead, Mr. Dutton, and the murderer is in your house.
Someone is doing murder in Christine Day's name. Our souls The Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom of the Opera. Only love and music are forever.
Of course, it doesn't help when Freddy Krueger is being the main promotional piece for this movie. There are literally posters, and the Blu-ray for this actually has Robert Englund in the Freddy Krueger makeup. It says, Robert Englund was Freddy, now he's the Phantom of the Opera, and it's like, okay, that's not really the way you want to sell this movie. Especially since the Phantom of the Opera by Andrew Lloyd Webber was already out at this point. It was a much bigger success on Broadway. It would have its own movie adaptation in the 2000s, but we will get to that one when we get to that one. But this one is an updated, gorier version of the classic story by Gaston Leroux. I think I read the name right. Gaston Leroux. And, of course, stars Robert Englund as the Phantom. And this could have been something interesting. The director of this, Dwight Little, did the last Halloween movie, Halloween 4, The Revenge of Michael Myers. He also would later go on to direct movies such as Marked for Death, Free Willy 2, Murder at 1600, and, yeah, the movie just doesn't work. I mean, it's not a bad-looking movie. It is visually impressive, and I'll give it to Robert Englund. He's doing the best he can from the little bit of this trailer that I see here. I think he is trying his best to make this work. But, yeah, like I said, the movie, I think, was just trying way too hard to sell you another Nightmare on Elm Street type movie, except there's no there isn't that comedy that was there in the later Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and it just didn't work. It just doesn't work from what I see here. So, like, when the alternate title cover of this film is Freddy the Musical, there's a huge problem here. So, that's my thoughts on the Robert Englund Phantom of the Opera. Very forgettable movie. England's trying his best, but it just doesn't work. So, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and the next movie is another horror film called After Midnight.
Go ahead. Scare me.
Are you afraid of the house?
I thought you said there's nothing to worry about.
I don't like this.
Let's get out of here. I'm all alone here, and I don't think this guy's kidding around.
What are you afraid of?
I wonder if he really used hedge clippers to chop off their heads.
Come and get me.
Alex, help me!
Do it!
Are you ready to be scared?
After Midnight was another movie that was trying to be a horror anthology, much like Creepshow and Dead of Night, and then later on, better examples, Tales from the Dark Side. And the writers of this movie are Ken and Jim Weitz. They also wrote Silent Scream, they wrote Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, and they also wrote Fly 2. But, yeah, despite a pretty solid cast in this one, you got Mark Helgenberger in one of her early roles, Mark McClure from the Superman movies, Alan Rosenberg from L.A. Law, Pamela Segal, who would later go on to be a prolific voice actor and also star in Better Things. The movie itself just really isn't all that inspiring. Like, it doesn't really do enough to make it stand out. These stories that they're telling here, they're kind of generic stories. They're generic little stories here. And, like, movies like Creepshow, another one I didn't bring up, the Twilight Zone movie, that's the one I wanted to bring up before. I think they did a better job of creating these solid anthology stories, these horror anthology stories. But watching this movie, it just really doesn't feel like they were really trying their best here. I think they just wanted to make another Creepshow or another Twilight Zone movie, and it just doesn't work in the end. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about After Midnight. It's I think someone said it best on here, it's more boring than frightening. So, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie. And the last movie is... I literally had to look it up because I completely forgot about it. It's Bloodhounds of Broadway.
How thrilling!
When the champagne was cold,
Shouldn't
Oh, yes.
And the Dames was red hot.
Do you always carry weenies with you?
I know 24-hour chapel over in Hackensack where you don't even need a blood test.
It was a time to see old friends.
Has Hortense Hathaway arrived yet?
I'm sure I wouldn't know.
Better mingle. I'm saving myself for our hostess tonight.
Can I buy you a drink?
No, you may not.
And make some new ones.
I must have your body.
God, you're beautiful.
Blow off, dwarf.
Of course.
What business are you in?
Monkeys. City.
Oh, this is a pickle. I don't know anything about it.
What a night this is turning into.
Matt Dillon.
Call me Regret.
Jennifer Grey.
You're gonna forget him.
Julie Haggerty.
My friends call me Harriet.
Rutger Hauer.
Keep the change.
Madonna.
You don't say.
Isai Morales.
Even Society Dames is red hot for me.
Anita Morris.
You like it nasty?
And Randy Quaid.
Stop right there.
Bloodhounds of Broadway.
Yeah, if your director croaks before the movie actually opens, chances are this isn't going to end well if the studio is recutting it for you. No joke, the director of this movie, Howard Brookmer, actually died almost a year before this movie came out, and it was just like, okay. Chances are this is probably not going to end well, although sometimes it does work. But yeah, this definitely doesn't work. This is an ensemble period comedy from the 1920s. It takes place on New Year's Eve. It has really one of the most talented young casts you'll ever see. You've got Matt Dillon, Jennifer Grey, you've got Julie Haggerty, you got Rutger Hauer, Madonna, Isai Morales, Randy Quaid, Steve Buscemi, Fisher Stevens, Alan Ruck. I mean, this is not a bad cast at all, but again, it's one of those movies where they're just really not given a whole lot to do here. It's a very formulaic period piece movie that doesn't really do anything that makes it stand out here. And like I said, this is a great cast. They've been in much better movies than this, but you just really don't have a whole lot here to work with. I mean, they try their best, but it just doesn't come together. And like I said, this was a movie that was heavily recut by the studio after the director died, so there's really not a whole lot they could have done here to make this work, except reshoot this movie with a better script and a better director. But it is what it is, and unfortunately, it's not a very good movie, and one that's been largely forgotten over time. And unfortunately, we never will get to see a better cut of this movie, which I think a better cut of this movie maybe could have saved it, but it just doesn't work. It's a real mess of a movie, a real forgettable mess of a film. Bloodhounds of Broadway. You probably never even heard about it before I even talked about it, and you'll probably never hear about it again afterwards. So there you go. That's Bloodhounds of Broadway for you. I was literally about to stop recording when I saw another movie on that list that I probably should have looked at. That I should have looked at on the last episode. So let me go ahead and talk about the movie Dad. Let's go ahead and show you the trailer real quick, and then we'll come back.
John Tremont is coming home.
It's really be sick if you're here.
See, Mom, that's why you're the best. Not many people would have gone for guilt in your situation.
To meet a man he hardly knows.
Hello, Dad. I'm going to be staying here a few days.
Mother doesn't like me to wear this. Things that look too tough. Like Johnny Cash.
What do you and Mom do around here for fun?
I-20. Bingo!
Boy, this really is too much fun for one evening.
I just wanted to say how happy I am to see the family together.
It's a thrill for me, too. Are you finished? My chicken's getting cold. Terrific for him, John.
Hey, he's been good for me, too,
No, Johnny, something's wrong.
He has to learn what it means to be a son.
Where am I, Johnny? You're in a hospital, Dad. I think I could have guessed that one.
And a father.
Why was making money always more important to you than me or Mom? You said you wanted to talk.
We simply cannot hold hospital beds for patients who cannot profit from medical care.
How would we know? He's never gotten any medical care.
It's very hard, I realize, for children to understand that their parents have gotten old. Something has happened to him. This man is not your father. Since I got out of the hospital, I have had such fun.
Well, whatever's going on with Dad, I think it's pretty terrific.
And this is working. I'm beginning to feel very Japanese. He keeps coming into my bed at night. He won't leave me alone. You know, When your father gets excited, police, priests, prayers, nothing is gonna stop him. Oh, grow up.
Amblin Entertainment presents Jack Lemmon, Ted Danson, Olympia Dukakis, Kathy Baker, and Ethan Hawke. The greatest man John Tremont ever met was the first one. Dad.
Yeah, this came out last week, and I literally just forgot about it because I couldn't find it on the actual. It's because, like I said before, like I'm on Box Office Mojo looking for most of these movies. That was not on the list for October 27th. If it was, I really. And now that I'm looking at it now, it was there, and I didn't even notice it. So, yeah, I blame myself for that. And there was actually a couple of other movies there that I probably should have gotten to, but this one is the most notable one that I missed out on. So, if we do get a chance, if there's a week when there's nothing there, I'll look at Kill Me Again and Animal Behavior, because that was the other two movies that on that list that I didn't look at. But anyway, Dad. This is directed by Gary David Goldberg, who is best known for creating classic TV shows like Family Ties and Spin City. This was his first feature film effort, and this came mere months after Family Ties had ended. And for the most part, there's nothing really wrong with Dad on the whole. The cast here is great. I think Jack Lemmon is given one of his best performances in this movie. He's really great here. Ted Danson's very good here, as well as Ethan Hawke. They work off each other really well as these three generations of fathers and sons. There are nice moments to it. It doesn't get too sappy, but there are definitely moments where they do overuse the emotional moments a bit. The script itself, it's a little too generic. Like I said, it's something we've seen done over and over again, much better. The movie doesn't really do anything new with it, but it's not. This is mostly a harmless movie. It does have its moments. The cast, I think, makes it work. I do also like that the makeup on Jack Lemmon doesn't look too bad, even though they're trying to make him look like a really old guy. But the makeup work here is actually not that bad. I gotta give him a lot of credit for that. It has, like I said, it has its moments, has a good cast to work off of, but there's nothing about it that makes it too interesting or exciting. It's a nice little movie, but not one I'd rush out again to see again. So,
Okay, we're open.
The McDermott brothers.
We're giants. Legends in our own mind.
A rebel.
You don't touch my brother. Harassing innocent people. I am shocked.
A rowdy.
What are you doing?
A Romeo.
I'll show you mine, you show me yours.
Life sure has thrown them a lot of curves.
I'm only 17.
The sexual demands of this job are too much.
Please. Chickens. They're rats with a good reputation. I hate them.
But now is the time for three boys to become men.
I sold the business.
Just like that?
Yeah, just like that.
Well, what about us? I think you took that well.
To take chances.
Live in your own world, Dad. I don't have time to waste.
To make choices.
I'm gonna be a bum. Sleep in doorways, buy half pints, drink from a paper bag. Don't worry, Dad. I'll make you proud.
Why don't you grow up?
Stop it, somebody's gonna get hurt.
Worst food I'll ever make you. So eat it!
And to face the world.
Dad!
The only way they know how.
He's dead. What should we do?
Tickler. No!
Together.
The modern woman always has her lovers at her wedding.
Can we talk about this later, maybe? Or I'm a little worried about the beaver.
You know, I've been thinking about that problem of yours. Well, I've decided to help you with it.
I'm gonna be a man.
Can I borrow your wife for a moment?
Take
Thank you, I already did.
This is Lee Grant's tough and tender comedy.
Oh, very emotional family.
Staying Together.
So Lee Grant directed this movie, and she also did a couple of documentaries in between her first scripted film, which was Tell Me a Riddle. Those documentaries are When Women Kill, What Sex Am I, Nobody's Child, Down and Out America, Battered. This was only her second directorial outing in terms of a feature film. I haven't seen this movie before, but judging by the trailer for this, it features a lot of those things that we've seen done to death over and over again in movies. Like it's like trying to be like this coming of age melodramatic comedy is the best way I could describe it from this trailer. It's got a great cast to it. I mean, Sean Astin, Stockard Channing, Melinda Dillon from A Christmas Story, Dermot Mulroney, Daphne Zuniga, Sheila Kelly from L.A. Law, Tim Quill, and it looks like it's got some decent reviews on here, so maybe it's actually alright. Maybe it's one of those movies that kind of got lost under the radar. Most people don't really talk about it, but it's actually kind of an underrated gem. I can't really say it for sure because I haven't seen it, but the trailer doesn't really do anything for me, but who knows, I might actually give it a shot down the line at some point. So, if you've seen it before, let me know in the comments below. That's my initial thoughts on Staying Together. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and the next movie is Best of the Best.
It's not a team if you don't give a damn about one another.
Going number 1 or number 2?
Trusted.
Mom, I gotta go.
What does it take to turn 5 uncontrollable characters into one unbeatable team?
Even with my help, it would be difficult, if not nearly impossible, to defeat a team from Korea.
I'm afraid. You need this fight bad. You need this fight for you.
I'm here to teach you how to win. Winning isn't a sometime thing. Winning is an all-time thing.
This is the only thing I know I am good at. Don't take that away from me.
You can work. You can sweat. You can train. You can dream and never be better than good. But when the right people come together at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Yep, another movie that looks way too similar to The Karate Kid. We've already seen, what, like 5 of these already this year? Kickboxer, and then we had the other one, some of the other ones I can't remember off the top of my head, but you know, this has another one that has a decent cast to it. Eric Roberts, James Earl Jones, Sally Kirkland, Louise Fletcher, but yeah, this is one that doesn't really look all that interesting to me. I haven't seen this one before, but evidently it did well enough to spawn not 1, not 2, but 3 other sequels to this series, so somebody must have watched it, even though this movie didn't really make a ton of money at the box office. It only made, like, I'm looking right here, $1.7 million on a $5 million budget, so I don't know why they thought people would go to see a second one, a third one, or a fourth one. But, who knows? I mean, yeah, there was just nothing in this trailer that really made me say, wow, this actually looks something different than what we used to see. But, no, it just looks like another Karate Kid meets Kickboxer, Bloodsport, No Holds Barred, those type of movies. It's pretty much an underdog story, but you can definitely see a lot of the same things that we've seen in these other movies done over and over again, so I don't know. It's another one that doesn't really seem all that interesting to me. Most of these movies that came out this weekend really were not interesting. Case in point, with our next movie, Christopher Walken in Communion.
wasn't a dream. There's a group that meets.
Group?
People who've seen the same sort of things you have.
Which group of aliens abducted you?
Bob, we are not victims. We are participants.
I don't recall them being human.
I can't take all my baby screaming!
Yeah, based on a true story. Okay, whatever you say, pal. I mean, the trailer looked atmospheric, but man, this movie was. This movie really feels like a melodramatic movie. Like everybody's overacting, everybody is too serious. There's too many ridiculously stupid-looking scenes that are supposed to be serious and dramatic, and you know, Christopher Walken is trying his best here, but I don't know, man. I mean, Christopher Walken deserves much better than this. I mean, hell, everybody in this movie does. Lindsay Krause, Frances Sternhagen, and like I said, based on a true story, really, whenever I hear that, this is the type of movie that I think to myself, okay, yeah, that's really based on a true story. It's just like, it's based on a book, though, but yeah, I don't know about this one. Communion was pretty rough. I mean, everyone's trying their best here, but they're just going way too over the top. It's too melodramatic. Christopher Walken's doing his best, but yeah, it's a mess. It's a real mess. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, which is Crack House.
These streets, staying alive can be murder.
You're gonna be all right, man. You're gonna be all right.
All he wanted was a better life.
Are you asking me to marry you?
You know I quit the fraud shows for us.
But for friendship
You come back to help us get the barrio, mano.
and pride,
I'm telling you, homeboy, I'm gonna smoke you and your whole set. Cut the gun. Pass your fingers behind your head.
Chief Morales, I thought you smartened up.
Those Grays killed my cousin.
he lost his freedom
Tell me what you know. Has anybody touched girl?
and lost his girl to the man who rules the streets.
You do nothing I don't tell you to do.
He's got my girl in his house. I think I can help you bust him.
Maybe we can cut a deal.
Now he's getting even.
She means that much to you.
Yes, she does.
I think you and I are gonna get along real well. Hit him and hit him hard.
Crack House.
Pretty familiar weekend of movies, right? I mean, how many other movies have we seen that are just like this one? I mean, good lord, man, this was a rough weekend, and this one's not even trying to hide the fact that this has been done to death over and over again. Yeah, you can convince me that you can bring in Jim Brown and Richard Roundtree if you want to, but you got to have something else than this, man. I mean, this is just, they won't even try with this one. This is Canon Films. Canon Films, of course, they had like 3 different movies come out this weekend. We've already looked at 2 of them, and then we got another one coming up, but Canon Films, at least, you got to try better than this, man. I mean, no wonder this company did not last too long after this movie came out. Well, actually, I'm lying, because it lasted 5 more years after this movie came out, but at least with the other movies that Canon put out in the 80s, they were at least kind of fun to watch, but this is just like, we've seen this done over and over again. I mean, you got to give me something new here to work with, or at least do something unique, do something original with it, but no, this is just something that we've seen done over and over and done to death over and over again. It's just, I mean, what more do I need to say about this one? It looks like garbage, probably is garbage, so that's all I got to say about it. So let's go ahead and try to find the next movie that's decent, and we may have actually found one. Here's Kenneth Branagh's Henry V.
It was a time of courtiers and kings. It was the turning point for the English throne.
May I, with right and conscience, make this claim?
It was one of history's greatest adventures, led by a soldier who wouldn't retreat.
Once more into the breach there, friends! Once more!
A lover who wouldn't give up.
Is it possible that I should love the enemy of France?
But in loving me, you should love the friend of France.
A leader who upheld justice.
or when lenity and cruelty play for a kingdom, the gentler gamester is the soonest winner.
A rebel who wouldn't give in.
What say you? Will you yield?
The fourth Lord Constable and Princes all, and quickly bring us word of England's fall.
A king who defied the odds to prove himself a man.
This story shall the good man teach his son. From this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers.
The Samuel Goldwyn Company presents a bold new film by Kenneth Branagh, Henry V.
So this was Kenneth Branagh's big breakout film. This was the first movie that most people knew who he was at this point. This is the movie that made him become the star that we know him now to be, because he wrote this movie, he directed it, he starred in it, he produced it, and he did a hell of a good job with it. I mean, this is a really good adaptation of William Shakespeare's Henry V, featuring a great cast which includes him, Paul Scofield, Derek Jacobi, Ian Holm, Brian Blessed, Emma Thompson, Judi Dench, Christian Bale. I mean, this is a really solid movie, a visually pleasing looking film, and just like I said, it's the movie that launched Kenneth Branagh's name into the Hollywood street, and rightfully so, because he did such a great job with this. He also did an adaptation of Twelfth Night that came out a year before this, which was part of was it part of Masterpiece Theater? No, it was part of I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia page for it, because I thought maybe it was a Masterpiece Theater presentation, but it was made by the Thames Television. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but that's what I'm getting on here. But yeah, Henry V was actually a really good movie. It's a really solid adaptation of the story. It's a very visually pleasing looking film. It's the first movie I've seen from this weekend that actually had something of worth to it. So that should tell you a lot. This is the fifth film we're looking at, and we just found the gem of this weekend so far. So that's all I got to say about Henry V. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, which is the second Toxic Avenger movie we've gotten in 1989, and that's The Toxic Avenger Part 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie.
First, there was the theatrical smash hit, The Toxic Avenger. Then came the second theatrical smash hit, The Toxic Avenger Part 2. And now,
people of Tromaville, The Toxic Avenger's back.
The Toxic Avenger Part 3.
The Last Temptation of Toxie.
So I just cut it off there because you pretty much know what The Toxic Avenger is going to be like at this point. But the interesting thing I heard about this movie is that this is actually a continuation of Toxic Avenger Part 2, because Toxic Avenger Part 2 was made into a 4-hour cut, and Lloyd Kaufman had to cut the film down into 2 films. And so that's why this is coming out mere months after the previous film. I mean, all I can say about this movie is that if you've seen the other Toxic Avengers movies, you pretty much get what you get here. Fun, silly, over the top. It's everything you'd expect from Troma Entertainment. I mean, this is everything you can ask for and then some. So I don't really think I have to delve into too much more in this. I mean, what am I going to do? Go deep into something like this? I mean, probably not. But like I said, you get what you get here. It's goofy. It's silly. It's a ton of fun. It's the Toxic Avenger. It's Troma Entertainment. What more could you ask for? Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is the third canon film released this weekend, and that is 10 Little Indians.
From the master of mystery comes a classic tale of terror and suspense. Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians. 10 unsuspecting strangers have accepted an invitation to murder.
I don't call that murder. I call that bloody bad luck.
10 little Indians went out to dine. One choked on himself, and
None of us are going to leave. That is the plan.
Whoever's out there killing us one by one is laughing, and we're still here stranded. Don't listen.
We won't be out there long. Let's go.
You were the only one who had any bullets. Of course it's you. It isn't true.
It was murder in a way.
You had a whole day in which to, I would say, arrange things.
We're being picked off like flies. Who's next?
The devil is monsters.
We have to stick together. He's right.
No, thank you.
Canon Films presents Donald Pleasance, Brenda Vaccaro, Frank Stallone, and Herbert Long in Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians.
Now, even though this is the fourth adaptation of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, this is actually based off of the stage adaptation of that book, and doesn't make any mention of the novel itself. And, yeah, this is a tough one to really comment on. I've read the story before in high school. We actually read this in high school during our English class several times, but as far as the adaptation goes, I can't really decide if I really like this or not. It's not a bad movie. It's a decent adaptation, but it's not one that I instantly remember a whole lot. I remember some of it. I don't remember a whole lot of it, but it's one of those movies that really, I think, it needed something a little bit more to really become a classic movie. I mean, I don't think Canon Films was going to be good enough to make this movie turn out as good as it should have been, because Agatha Christie stories have made for some great movies. The Hercule Poirot stories, of course, Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile have made for decent movies over the last couple of years. But I kind of want to see what somebody could do with 10 Little Indians in modern times. I mean, there's been some adaptations since this, but nobody has really taken the real chances with the story. Although there have been some attempts, like Family Guy did an episode based off of the story, and then there were fewer, which turned out to be one of their best episodes. I kind of want to see what they can do with a movie version of this in a modern time. I don't know if the miniseries I was talking about actually does that, but for the most part, the cast in here is alright. You got Donald Pleasance, you got Brenda Vaccaro, Frank Stallone, Herbert Long from the Pink Panther movies. Not much more I can say about this one here. I don't hate it, but I don't really like it either. I just think it's kind of run-of-the-mill. That's my thinking on this movie, so that's my thoughts on 10 Little Indians. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, which is one of the big Oscar winners from this year, and that is My Left Foot.
He astounded audiences in My Beautiful Laundrette, Room with a View, and The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Now, Daniel Day-Lewis gives the greatest performance of his career in a film about life, laughter, and the occasional miracle. My Left Foot. A great, exhilarating movie, says Pauline Kael in The New Yorker. A titanic triumph, says Rex Reed. Intelligent and beautifully acted, says Vincent Canby in The New York Times. And Siskel and Ebert call it enormously entertaining. Two very enthusiastic thumbs up. One of the year's finest films. Daniel Day-Lewis, My Left Foot.
So My Left Foot is the story of Christy Brown. Daniel Day-Lewis plays Christy Brown, and this is based off of Brown's story. He's a man who's born with cerebral palsy, and he can only control it with his left foot. And this movie is about the struggles that he had to go through in life. And I think they did a pretty good job with this movie. I think this is one of those movies that could have easily been an Oscar bait-ish type movie, but Daniel Day-Lewis does give a really solid performance in this. You really believe him as Christy Brown. And that's really the best thing you can say about Daniel Day-Lewis. Like, some people may think he's a little bit overrated as an actor because he's got 3 Academy Awards, and there were better performances each of those years that he was nominated. But you can't say that the guy isn't very talented. I mean, the guy is a solid actor. He's just, anytime he's on screen, I mean, he's usually giving it his all. He's one of those guys that usually picks his scripts the right way. He doesn't usually take these really bad scripts that most actors do. And this was no exception. This was a great role for him, and I think him and Brenda Fricker's performance really ups this to another level. This movie, like I said, could have easily have been another schlocky, Oscar baity type movie. But, no, it wasn't. It was actually a pretty solid movie overall. I mean, I won't say it's one of the best movies of the year. I think there were better movies that came out in '89 that got overlooked severely at the Oscars. But, yeah, for the most part, this is actually a pretty good movie. It definitely is a lot better than I think a lot of people gave it credit for. So, if you haven't seen My Left Foot, I definitely say check it out. So, let's go ahead and take a look at the last movie finally, and that is Survival Quest.
Deep in the forest.
See you guys in 4 weeks.
6 people in a wilderness survival school.
Welcome to Survival Quest. Look around you. The guy next to you just might have to save your life. In the wilderness, you're going to face many difficult moments that can only be solved by the group working together. Survival Quest is a series of challenges. No, please. I'm ready. I'm not ready. Now. No. Face it, the guy's dead meat.
Oh, no. Oh, come on. What happened to grape nuts?
Yum.
Come on.
Which one?
I can't get it. I got him. Gotta get the hell out of here.
Survival Quest.
From Don Coscarelli, who also made the Phantasm movies, and I really have no idea what they were trying to go for here. I don't know if he was trying to make this like a Phantasm movie, but it's really hard to tell because I really don't know anything. I don't know anything about this movie except from that trailer, and that trailer did not do a very good job of telling you what you're supposed to feel of this movie. Are you supposed to expect a thriller from this? Are you expecting a horror film? Are you expecting an uplifting story here? I just don't know what they're going for here. Another movie that has a great cast to it: Lance Henriksen, Dermot Mulroney, Catherine Keener in one of her early roles. But yeah, like I said, this movie doesn't really have a good idea of what it's trying to be. Like, I don't know what they were trying to sell it as, and it definitely shows on screen here. Like, I don't know what they were going for, but whatever it was, it didn't really work all that well. And it's not to say that Don Coscarelli can't direct good movies outside of Phantasm. He made The Beastmaster, he made Bubba Hotep, he made John Dies at the End. I just don't think they had a good idea of what they were trying to go for here. I think they just saw his name and said, we need to get him to... MGM said, we need to get him to direct a movie. We don't care what it is, just let him do a movie. And then we got this, and there's a reason why nobody really talks about it, and it's honestly hard to figure out what they were trying to go for here. So, and with that said, that wraps up all 9 movies that we've looked at today. And let me tell you something, that was rough. I mean, 9 movies, and probably about only 2 of them were really great movies. The other 2 other ones were just kind of and then the rest of them were mostly forgettable schlock. I mean, like I said, it's rough. I mean, for 9, you'd expect more from 9 movies coming out, but we're past that now. So,
in 1938, the nights belonged to Harlem. The place to be was Club Sugar Ray's. The man to know was Quick.
Now, when you see Quick, I suggest you guys make plans to go elsewhere.
I ain't afraid of going up against Smalls or Calhoun.
That's because you're young.
Come on!
Full of vigor.
I work for Mr. Calhoun.
What kind of work do you do?
Whatever's required.
What would a woman that fine want in a big, fat, nasty, greasy, 12 sandwich eating? What does she want with it?
I don't know, man. She likes fat guys.
Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Danny Aiello.
It's nice to meet you.
Michael Lerner, Della Reese,
Jasmine Guy.
I'd like to go upstairs.
Arsenio Hall. Oh, quick as mine.
Gotta stop overreacting.
Overreacting? Harlem Nights. I thought I was the only person who slept with his guns under the pillow. Look at her little gun. Oh,
Coming Friday, November 17th at theaters everywhere.
Such a good cast for this movie. You got Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Della Reese, Jasmine Guy, Danny Aiello, Michael Lerner, Arsenio Hall. I mean, it's a great cast here, but this was one of Eddie Murphy's first real misfires as a filmmaker. I mean, an actor, I should say, because he had one critical box office failure, and that was Best Defense back in '84. I think it was like 80. I think it might have been around the same time Beverly Hills Cop came out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Eddie Murphy's name was attached to this movie all over the place. He wrote it, he produced it, he directed it, he starred in it. There was a lot of high expectations because Eddie Murphy was a big draw at the time, and he still was a big draw. I mean, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Coming to America, The Golden Child was even a big success. But this movie just, I don't know, it just didn't feel like a movie that worked to Eddie Murphy's strengths. I mean, it's not as bad as I think people give it credit for, because a lot of people really did not like this movie. It was on Siskel and Ebert's Worst of the Year list. But you could definitely tell why Eddie Murphy didn't really go back to directing as much as he did before this movie came out or afterwards. But, I mean, it just didn't work. I mean, there are parts in this movie that are legitimately good, and I do like some of the visuals in here. The set designs are actually not as bad as I think people give it credit for. And I think Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, and Red Fox, they all work together really well. This cast overall is great. And I just think I don't think there was just anything there to really make it work as well as I think Eddie Murphy wanted it to. But I'll give it credit. At least it was better than Bloodhounds Over Broadway, which is pretty much kind of like this movie in a way. But, yeah, so Harlem Nights, I won't say it's a bad movie per se. I just won't say it's a great movie in any particular strengths. It does have moments that make it that warrant it to be watchable, but it's not. It's definitely one of Eddie Murphy's lesser movies at the time. I don't think it's one of the movies that one of his worst movies per se, because I think Eddie Murphy has done much worse movies since this movie came out, which we'll definitely get into in the years to come. But yeah, Harlem Nights, I just think it's an okay movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just kind of run-of-the-mill, and I think it was a little bit of a stain on Eddie Murphy's career, and I think this really began somewhat of the downfall of Eddie Murphy in the early 90s, because Eddie Murphy's career in the early 90s kind of took a nosedive after this movie came out, and we'll delve into those as we get into the years to come. But that's my thoughts on Harlem Nights. Now let's get to the movie that everybody remembers from this weekend, and that is Disney's The Little Mermaid.
For over 50 years, Walt Disney has turned classic stories into classic animated motion pictures. Now the tradition continues as one of the world's greatest stories becomes the newest Disney motion picture classic, The Little Mermaid.
I want to be where the people are. I want to see them dancing, up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun.
It's the story of Ariel, a beautiful young mermaid who wants to become human.
He's very handsome, isn't he?
I don't know, he looks kind of hairy and slobbery to me.
Not that one, the other one.
And she'll strike a bargain with a powerful sea witch.
Have we got a deal?
To make her dream come true.
What I want from you is your voice.
My voice?
You've got it, sweet cakes.
Ariel's been turned into a human.
Have you lost your senses completely? The human world, it's a mess.
Now, the Little Mermaid is exploring the mysteries of her strange new world.
What's your name? What's wrong? You can't speak?
But to regain her voice, the sea witch's spell must be broken.
Move it! We got an emergency here!
Broken by the kiss of true love.
Kiss.
It's Walt Disney Pictures' 28th full-length animated motion picture, featuring dozens of delightful new Disney characters and 7 magical new songs.
Sha-la-la, sha-la-la, don't stop now. We're trying to hide
This holiday season, share the wonder and magic of a very special entertainment event. A fantastic adventure above the waves and under the sea.
Under the sea! Under the sea! When the sun yeah, we in luck here, down in the muck here, under the sea.
Walt Disney Pictures, The Little Mermaid.
Yep, this was the movie that really changed the game at Disney. I mean, movies like Oliver and Company and The Great Mouse Detective were much better successes than, say, The Black Cauldron was or The Fox and the Hound, but it wasn't until this, along with the combination of Who Framed Roger Rabbit and the Renaissance that started the renaissance of animation that would later come in the 1990s. And this was the movie that really pushed it to another level, something that nobody really had expected at the time. But it's a movie that definitely it's definitely a movie that's held up well over time. It's a movie that I think everybody can really get into, not just the girl audience that I think it was mainly targeted for, but people in general, in particular. I think anybody who, no matter what gender you are, can really appreciate the story. And it does take. I do like a lot of the elements here. The animation in this still holds up really well. This is the last movie that Disney did before they pretty much switched over to the cap system that they did in the 90s, which made their animated movies come out better and took less time to do. You can definitely nitpick some things about the movie. You could definitely say that the main character, Ariel, she doesn't learn anything from this experience. She doesn't really go through something. She doesn't really do anything to warrant any kind of like punishment or something for something that she did. And in the end, she gets everything she wants. But I don't know. You can kind of make the argument that there are some things in this that actually make it make sense in a way. And I do it's one of those arguments that I think a lot of people can really have about this, but I agree with some of those arguments, but I think the movie does just as good of enough job to make you kind of appreciate it for what it really is. I mean, it really is a well-made movie, a fantastic animated movie, a fantastic musical. The songs in this movie are amazing. Howard Ashman and Alan Menken they took what made them what worked in stuff like Little Shop of Horrors and just brought it to here, and they've created some of the most memorable songs in music history, honestly. And it's funny when you look back at the history of this movie and you realize some of the stuff that almost didn't make the cut. Like Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the head of Disney at Disney's animation department at the time, really wanted to cut out Part of Your World because they had test screenings and it didn't work, and they fought long and hard to keep that song in the movie. And they said it was because it wasn't playing well, but the animators were basically making the argument that it just needs to play better with the animation and all that. And it's one of those things where Jeffrey Katzenberg at the time, he usually was spot on a lot of things. He made the big deal about Black Cauldron, saying that you got to edit this down, and the animators made the argument saying that you can't edit down an animated movie. He said, of course you can. And so most of the time he was right, but then there were those times where he was just wrong. He was wrong on this, and it definitely shows when the movie actually comes out and Part of Your World's actually become the best-known song from the movie. Wait till you hear what he has to say about Pocahontas and The Lion King whenever we get to those movies. But, I got nothing more to say about this movie. It's a classic. I love the characters. I love the storytelling. I love the animation. I love the music. It's just a movie that has really stood the test of time. It still remains one of the great animated achievements. And, of course, it started the Disney Renaissance, and it also started this resurgence of animation that we would get in the 90s. Like I said, I got nothing else to say. Little Mermaid's a classic movie. So... And The Little Mermaid was not the only animated film that came out this weekend. Don Bluth, once again going up against Disney, decided to put a new animated film out on the same weekend, and that is All Dogs Go to Heaven.
In An American Tale, he gave us a memorable mouse. Then, in The Land Before Time, he brought us some delightful dinosaurs. Now, director Don Bluth unleashes his most extraordinary adventure ever. All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh, you can't keep a good dog now. Wow, 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 wow. You can't keep a good dog now. Wow, 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 wow. The night man we own this town. You can't keep a good dog
some of the cuddliest canines you'll ever come across. Featuring the voices of Dom DeLuise.
Try that again, you. And you are glue.
Lonnie Anderson.
Gosh, how these little guys love you.
And Burt Reynolds.
Hey, easy, easy.
Will help me find a mommy and daddy?
I promise.
Oh, Charlie.
All dogs go to heaven because nothing warms a heart like a cold nose.
Now, obviously, The Little Mermaid is the best of the two movies here, but I'm not gonna lie. I freaking love this movie, man. Like, when I was a kid, I used to watch this movie all the time as a kid. It still holds up for me today. It's just a great movie. It's a great movie. It's one of those movies that I can usually quote a lot of the first half of the movie. I played this movie so much when I was little. It's a fun movie. I mean, Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, you got Vic Tayback, Charles Nelson Riley, Lonnie Anderson. Great animation from Don Bluth. I mean, this was really his last great movie that he made in the 80s before he had that lull in the 90s. But not all of his movies in the 90s were bad. We'll get to those whenever we get to those movies. But this was the last really great movie I remember seeing from him. It's not American Tail good. It's not Land Before Time good. It certainly isn't Secret of the Nim good, because Secret of Nim is really the best movie I think Don Bluth has ever made. But this is a great movie all around. Like, I love this movie as a kid. It still holds up for me today. It's silly. It can get over the top sometimes. The animation is good, but not as good as some of his other works. But it's a great movie. It's a movie that holds up well over time. It's definitely one of my favorite movies, for sure. And yeah, like I said, Little Mermaid is obviously the better animated film, but this movie still holds a very special place in my heart. All Dogs Go to Heaven. I think it's a great film. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. And the next movie is the holiday film Prancer.
Something magical is about to happen to Jessica Riggs. A very special reindeer is coming to visit her.
Prancer is in the shed near my house.
Now, she and her brother Steve are the only ones who can get Prancer home for Christmas.
Figured you might need some help with the jailbreak.
Look, it's gonna fly! It's gonna fly!
Prancer, a Christmas adventure for the whole family. Now playing at a
It's funny, I remember this movie too, but I don't remember as much as I did with All Dogs Go to Heaven. I feel like this is a movie that I didn't remember a whole lot of it, but as I watched it again a couple Christmases ago, I really have grown to appreciate it more. It is a good-hearted film. It's a harmless movie. It's a very, what's the best way to describe it? It's a fine film. I don't think it's a movie that stands up with some of the best Christmas movies of all time. I don't consider it a holiday classic, but from what I've seen here, it's definitely worthy of the time of the year. It reminded me a lot of One Magic Christmas, this movie that Disney did in the 80s that not a whole lot of people talk about. A movie that I think is very underrated. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a classic that should be seen every year, but if you want to see something new this holiday season, I'd say definitely check out that one and this one as well. This movie actually is pretty fun. Like the young girl Rebecca Harrell is very good here. You also have Sam Elliott, Cloris Leachman, Ava Goda, Ariana Richards, who we later see in Jurassic Park, is in this movie as well. And Johnny Galecki from why am I blanking on it now? Christmas Vacation and Big Bang Theory. You also have Jesse Bradford, who would later be seen in Clock Stoppers and Swim Fan. It's just a fun movie. This is just a good, fun movie. It's a good, if you're looking for something new, you want to see something different, or not even different, but like something that's perfect for the holiday season, I'd say definitely check this one out. So, I've actually forgot to do another movie before this one, so let's go ahead and do that one. That one is Steel Magnolias.
Here we go!
I don't want to have to kill you.
Don't you threaten me, Drum Eaton.
Drum would never, ever point a gun at a lady.
Your husband is a boil on the butt of humanity.
TriStar Pictures presents
Well, this is it. You're finally rid of me.
Sally Field,
I think you'd be back every now and then.
Dolly Parton,
How's your family? Louis brought his girlfriend home, and the nicest thing I can say about her is all of her tattoos are spelled correctly.
I miss Weed. Ugh, leave me alone.
Shirley MacLaine,
I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years.
Daryl Hannah.
Miss Trudy, I swear to you that my personal tragedy will not interfere with my ability to do good hair.
Olympia Dukakis.
Looks like two pigs fighting under a blanket.
Julia Roberts.
I'm gonna make you very happy.
I want a child of my own.
Your poor body has been through so much. Why would you deliberately do this to yourself?
Diabetics have healthy babies all the time.
You are special, Shelby.
Time has made them close. Life
She's gonna have a baby. Go get a doctor.
has made them friends. Steel Magnolias, the funniest movie that will ever make you cry.
And this movie was trying to be a success all around. They got all these big names attached to it. Herbert Ross, who directed films like The Secret of My Success, Protocol, Footloose, Pennies from Heaven, The Goodbye Girl, Funny Lady. You also have this incredible cast involved here. Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Daryl Hannah, Olympia Dukakis, Julia Roberts. I mean, just a mix of some of the 80s best female actresses and some of these rising stars. This was one of Julia Roberts' earliest breakout successes, and I think it even got her an Academy Award nomination. And you can definitely see why. It's a movie like, if you like movies like Terms of Endearment, or like On Golden Pond, or The Big Chill, like these movies that could be melodramatic, but they do just enough to make it stand out on its own. And there are elements in here that do make you laugh more than you would think they would be. That I saw this movie and I didn't think I was going to laugh as hard as I did with some of these scenes in this movie, but I'll be damned if I didn't laugh pretty long and hard at some of these scenes. Like, this is it's a great cast. Nobody's really overstepping each other. The direction is very good. The writing is top notch. I mean, this is a pretty good movie. It's a movie that I don't think a lot of people. I think it is. I think people do talk about it, but I think people don't really understand how solid this movie is, largely because of these performances these ladies give. You also have great performances from some of the other actors in here: Tom Skerritt, Sam Shepard, Dylan McDermott, Kevin J. O'Connor. It's just just a fun movie all around. If you haven't seen Steel Magnolias, I'd say definitely check it out. So that's one I forgot to do before we got to All Dogs Go to Heaven. But let's go on ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Valmont.
Vicomte!
Madame.
What kind of man is he? All his life, Monsieur de Valmont has been and is a consummate master of the art of seduction. He has charmed his countless victims, designing his every gesture, every word, every smile that has only one squalid end: destroy the woman's honor.
Are you in love with Monsieur de Valmont?
Oh, no, certainly not.
The question is, which one of you ladies would like to spend the night with him?
Directed by Milos Forman, who also did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and just these other great movies. It's got a good cast to it. You got Colin Firth, you got Annette Bening, Meg Tilly, Fairuza Balk, Jeffrey Jones, Henry Thomas from E.T. is in this. I think the biggest problem this movie has is that we just had Dangerous Liaisons the year before, and I think that movie coming out so close to this one, I think really hurt its chances of really becoming a breakout hit or something, because not a lot of people really talk about this movie all that much. The performances in this are actually not bad. They're actually pretty good. But, yeah, there's just nothing here that really makes this one stand out over other movies of this type, like the aforementioned Dangerous Liaisons, or even something like Cruel Intentions we got 10 years later. But, yeah, it's Milos Forman doing what Milos Forman does best. If you like his work, you'll probably get a kick out of this one. So, on to the last movie, and that is High Stakes.
Taking risks. That's why we're in the game. He's a high roller. The best there is at cutting a deal.
Crazy. I want you to support that stock, and I will worry about tomorrow.
He's about to meet a woman who will challenge everything he believes in.
What's he of dirt? All the men?
She's bad, beautiful, and cuts like a knife. To enter her world is to surrender to uncertainty, States.
I'm honestly surprised it's got a release in theaters, because if you really look at it, this looks like something that you could see on Lifetime or something like that, because this really does not look like a movie that should be in theaters. It looks like something that you'd see on Lifetime or on a Sunday afternoon movie of the week, like on the Telemundo Sunday movie of the week or something like that. Nothing about this trailer spells out theatrical release. I mean, you got Sally Kirkland in this, but other than that, I mean, this is the type of movie, like I said, you'd see it on Lifetime, maybe you'd see it on prime time as a TV movie of the week, but, I can't really comment on it. I haven't seen it, but that's my thoughts on it. It doesn't look anything too spectacular. It looks pretty generic, honestly. It's like it's a New York hooker who's got to protect her daughter from these bad guys and do all this stuff on Wall Street and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, okay, so what's the point here? Like, what are you going to do here that I haven't seen done already in movies similar to this? So, and that's just my thought process on this. I mean, who knows? Maybe this has a following to it. I doubt it, but that's just my thoughts on High Stakes. So,
do you remember the future?
You've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future.
Are we back?
We're back.
What do you mean we're in the future?
October 21st, 2015.
Marty, we're going to be able to see our wedding.
Wow. Future. I gotta check this out, Doc.
Look what happened to your son.
Oh, he's a complete wimp.
Don't talk to anyone. You've been looking.
Hey, look!
Don't touch anything.
I need to borrow your hoverboard.
And try not to look at anything. I didn't invent the time machine to win at gambling.
I can't lose.
I invented the time machine to travel through time.
Hey, Doc, I'm all for that. What's wrong with making a few bucks on the side?
Now, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating an alternate 1985.
There have been a few changes.
It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse.
But they'll all be back.
CLIPLESS, slackers!
Biff?
Hello? Hello, anybody home?
Well, it can't be you. You're so big.
Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd. Michael J. Fox.
More like a couple of teenagers, you know?
And Michael J. Fox.
Mom, is that you?
Steven Spielberg presents a Robert Zemeckis film, Back to the Future, Part 2.
So yeah, I wasn't kidding. This was actually my first exposure to the Back to the Future franchise. They played this movie a lot all the time on USA Network in the 1990s, and I watched it a lot on USA in the 90s, and I thought to myself, this movie's actually pretty good. Where can I find the rest of these movies? And it took me a while to actually find the first movie. I actually found it on videotape, and I actually got it from down in Universal Studios, Florida, when we went there in, I think it was 98, so I got that at one of the Universal stores, and then Back to the Future Part 3 I had seen after I saw both the first movie and the second movie, and I didn't get an actual physical copy of it until I got the DVD of it back in 2002, the first DVD release, and I did eventually get the VHS later on down the line, and as you've seen on this channel, I've been collecting several different versions of Back to the Future on different forms of physical media, and that's only grown since then. If you want to see that original video I did for Back to the Future's 35th anniversary, click the link put up here at the top there. And down the line, I'll do a multiplicity episode showing you the latest update on the Back to the Future collection that I've been building up these last couple of years, because it has indeed grown. But, yeah, Back to the Future Part 2. I mean, it's really tough to come off a great movie like Back to the Future, and Back to the Future is a great movie. It's a movie that still holds up on so many levels. It's a movie I quote constantly. It's hard not to watch whenever it's on TV. If it's on TV, I have to stop what I'm doing and I have it on in the background, because I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it every single time. and it's just a great movie. It has so many memorable moments to it. It's one of my favorite. In fact, the whole trilogy, the Back to the Future trilogy, is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. All the movies in the trilogy. I mean, it's just a great movie. Even though I think Back to the Future Part 3 is probably the weakest of the films, I still enjoy it, but we'll get into that one once we get to Back to the Future 3 next summer, in the summer of 90. But yeah, Back to the Future Part 2 is a really good movie. It's definitely not as good as the first movie, but I think it has a lot of unique things to it that makes it stand out on its own. One of the things that really gets you right from the beginning is where the final scene of Back to the Future starts this movie, and of course they had to reshoot this because the original actress who plays Jennifer, Claudia Wells, couldn't do this movie because she was like there was family problems going on right now at the time of the film. At the time the film was being filmed, so they actually cast Elizabeth Shue, who had then come off of Adventures in Babysitting, and so they had to reshoot these scenes shot for shot, nearly identical to the original film. But if you look real closely in the beginning, you could definitely see notable differences. Like, I'll show you what I'm talking about right here with these two clips here. Note how in the original it's played up like a genuine moment, There's nothing really different and all that. Nothing really different compared to what it eventually becomes in the sequel. But in the sequel, notice how the acting is a little bit different. Like, Michael J. Fox and Elizabeth Shue are kind of talking a little more seriously than Fox and Claudia Wells in the original film. I'll show you what I mean when I show you the clip right here.
How about a ride, mister?
Jennifer. Oh, you a sight for sore eyes. Let me look at you.
Marty, you're acting like you haven't seen me in a week.
I haven't.
You okay? Is everything all right?
Oh, yeah. Everything is great.
How about a ride, mister?
Jennifer. Oh, man, you a sight for sore eyes. Let me look at you.
Marty, you're acting like you haven't seen me in a week.
I haven't.
Are you okay? Is everything all right?
Yeah. Everything's great.
Yeah, notice how the acting was much different compared to how the original film played it out. Most of the sequence itself is pretty much shot for shot the first movie, except the difference is that in the first film, Doc says that there's nothing wrong with Marty in the original film's ending, saying that it was his kids, something's got to be done about his kids. But then, as we find out in the second film, Marty himself is not in the best possible place either. And he's also wearing a watch in the second film where he wasn't in the first movie. So you look real closely, you can see those notable differences here and there. And for the most part, the movie is actually pretty good. Really good, I should say. I like that Biff is updated as a character in this movie. He's not just the typical dumb bully like he was in the first movie. He's actually grown as a character and, in fact, turns into more of a menace and a villain in this film compared to the other films, because he's actually gotten smarter because of what he's been presented to him with this almanac falling right into his hands. And you see what happens in the alternate future that they do here. I like the design of the casino. It's a mix of the courthouse mixed in with the Plaza Hotel in Las Vegas. You can tell it's the Plaza Hotel in Las Vegas. If you've ever seen that hotel, it's definitely that same design that they just took from that and put it into this movie. And it's a lot of fun. It's a fun movie. It's a fun idea to see these characters reacting to these scenes where one character from a different movie is opposite from the same character from another movie. Like, especially in the 1950, when they go back to 1955 and you have these scenes where Marty and Doc realize that there are two versions of themselves now in the past, including the ones from the Doc from 1955 and the Marty from 1985, and then the Doc and Marty from 1985 coming back to grab the almanac and head back in time and get rid of it. It's interesting to see what they're able to do here. And keep in mind, this is 1989. This is where they had to do a lot of work to make it seem like these scenes. They had to make these scenes look authentic. Like there's this great scene where older Biff and the younger Biff, played by Tom Wilson, are in this car, and you have to make sure that there's nothing there to make it seem like it's obvious CG and all that. And they did a pretty good job for the most part, except for this one scene where young Biff throws the almanac and it looks really fake. I'll show you what I'm talking about here.
It cost me $300. Will you shut up about the car? And yet another thing, how do you know where I live? Let's just say we're related. And that being the case, I got a little present for you. Something that'll make you rich. You want to be rich, don't you? Oh yeah, sure, right. That's rich. You're gonna make me rich? See this book? This book tells the future. It tells the results of every major sports event in the end of the century. Football, baseball, horse races, boxing. The information in here is worth millions. That's very nice. Thank you very much. Now, why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? It's leave, you idiot. Make like a tree and leave. You sound like a damn fool when you say it wrong. All right then, leave. And take your book with you.
Like, you see how fast he threw that almanac and that thing just went up so quickly? I mean, they tried their best, but it looks a little too CG in a way. But CG's probably not the word for it. It doesn't look realistic, at least at that part right there. But for the most part, this scene is done pretty well, and they do have a lot of those moments in this movie. Like, there's one scene where Doc meets up with the Doc of 1955, and he's putting together the thing that's going to help send Marty back to 1985. And it's interesting because there's a piece of dialogue there where he's talking about the type of wrench to use. He's talking about the Doc from 1955. It's just like, hey, can you hand me this 5/8 wrench here? And Doc from 85 is just like, 5/8? Don't you mean 3/4? Because if you remember, the plug from the first movie fell out, and so that's why Doc had to come down and get the plug back in, so to send Marty back to 1955. You'll see what I'm talking about here.
Excuse me, sir. Yes, sure, the hat. Ooh. Me? Yes. Be a pal, hand me a 5/8 inch wrench out of that toolbox. 5/8? Don't you mean 3/4? You're right. I presume you're conducting some sort of weather experiment. That's right. How did you know that? Oh, I happen to have had a little experience in this area. Yes. Well, I'm hoping to see some lightning tonight, although the weatherman says there's not going to be any rain. Well, there's going to be plenty of rain, all right. Wind, thunder, lightning. It's one hell of a storm. Well, thanks. Nice talking to you. Maybe we'll bump into each other sometime again in the future. Or in the past.
See, like, little things like that are pretty interesting. Although, if Doc has given him the wrench to use so the plug doesn't go out, doesn't break off, then why would he still be climbing down from the clock tower then? So, yeah, little things like that. There are little things like that that don't make a whole lot of sense, but it doesn't really affect the enjoyment factor of the movie itself. You're still enjoying what the movie has to offer to you. And there are just a lot of great moments in this movie when Marty has to go up on top of the stage while his 1955 stuff is doing Johnny Be Good, because Biff's bully friends are about to attack the Marty from 1985, and if he gets beat up, then there's a major paradox, and the whole world could come in on itself. And so there's this great scene where you see the Marty doing Johnny Be Good on the stage, while you see the Marty from 1985 on top of the stage trying to find a way to stop these bullies. And it's a great scene. There actually are a lot of good tension-filled scenes like that. There's the scene in the bridge. There's the bridge scene where Marty finally gets the almanac, and he has to go all the way. He has to get away from Biff, and he goes on the bridge to the hoverboard, and you're just wondering if he's ever going to get away from him. And then it has that the great climax in the end when Doc comes in to save the day. And so we then get to the end of the movie, and you think everything's going to wrap up. Everything's about to be the almanac is destroyed. The future is back, and then the DeLorean gets struck by lightning, and then you realize that we're going to set up for part 3. So, and it's a great heartfelt moment when Doc sends the letter back to Marty, and the Western Union guy gives it to him. And Marty realizes that there's only one man who could send it back to back from the future, and that is, Back to the Future, and that is the Doc from 1955. So there's this great scene where Doc sends the Marty from 1985 back to the future. Everything, it's like the first movie, everything looks like it's going to be A-okay, and then all of a sudden the new scene comes in, and then Marty runs in to the Doc from 1955. He's just like, I'm back from the future, and then Doc faints, and then we cut to the to be concluded segment of the movie, which leads us into part 3. And yeah, I may have made it a little more confusing than it needs to be, but that is what the movie is. Like, it's not a perfect movie. There are definitely moments in the movie that don't work as well, like the replacement of Crispin Glover. There was a whole thing about he didn't want to come back for Back to the Future Part 2 because of the money issue, so they replaced a new actor. And because of this, I guess the second film was the second film and the third film was supposed to have more with him in them. So they replaced him, and they actually gave Jennifer more to do in the sequels. That's why they brought in Elizabeth Shue instead of Claudia Wells. That's one of the reasons why she came in here, because she showed off her comedic potential in Adventures in Babysitting. And I mean, Elizabeth Shue was all right in here. I didn't think she really had a whole lot to do in this movie, but for what she had to do, she did a pretty good job, I think, given what she had to do. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say about this movie that I don't think anybody else has really said already. This is just a great movie. This is just a really fun movie. It's not as good as Back to the Future 1, but it really doesn't need to be. It does continue the story. It still has a lot of moments in here that you can definitely remember. I still have a lot of great lines and moments from this movie that I'll always remember. It's a funny movie. It's got the spirit of the original movie for the most part. And it's a fun adventure film, and it does make you want to see more of these adventures to come with the next movie. So I don't think it's an overall disaster of a movie like most people did at the time think it was. The movie did not get as many good reviews as what you might have expected, but it did well at the box office, and it has grown a following over the years. And that's pretty much all I got to say about this. The Back to the Future movies are my favorite movies. This was the first movie I was ever introduced to the series with, and it does hold a special place in my heart, and I really do like Back to the Future Part 2. Like I said, I don't think it's as good as the first one, but it's still an enjoyable adventure film, and I really do enjoy it. Every time it's on TV, I gotta watch it. It's a fun adventure film. Really good film. Can't say any more about it that has been said already. It's just a great, great film. So with all that said, that's going to wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time around, we enter December 1989 with another movie that only came out that weekend, and that was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And that's a movie that I could definitely speak a lot about. So we'll definitely delve into that on the next episode. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode I did. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Christmas Vacation episode. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. And until the next time I see you, take care.